If you are a drag racing fan, you are in the right place and watching the right show, Between the Slicks, live right here on the Monday Morning Racer platform. I'm Lee Kraft, the Monday Morning Racer. Welcome to Between the Slicks, where we talk about it all in the world of drag racing. And I think we have a important show tonight. We are going to have later on around 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Don Scott, owner of the World Drag Racing Alliance. We will talk about that in just a few more moments in drag news and what that means and what is going on. But that is the newest formed drag racing sanctioning body, and even though it is early in existence, it already has some heavy weight behind it with the facilities that have decided to throw their hat in the ring with the WDRA, making shifts in the world of drag racing. So, we're going to talk with him. There's been a lot of buzz about this new group. Why? What is going on? Why didn't people stay? There's even been earlier on Between the Slicks, such as when we had Gerald Kramer on, the owner of Eddyville Raceway Park, and alluding to what is coming down the pipe. So, it's going to be a fascinating conversation with Don Scott, the owner of the WDRA, and learn from him, glean from him why now, what their true purpose is, what the intent is, and how they are actually truly going to impact the sportsman racer, as they have made it their hallmark already that it's clear they're considering themselves to be the place, the home to race as a sportsman racer within drag racing. Before we go to drag news and dive into some of those things, let's go to the comments section. Christopher Hefner, hello. Hello, Chris. Hope you're doing well. Going Bracket Racing. What's up, Lee? I'm doing great. The Going Bracket Racing guys on Tuesday night. You can follow them on YouTube and Facebook as well. Subscribe to the channel. They have a weekly broadcast that's streamed live. And what do they talk about? Well, bracket racing, and they do a fine job of it. They're bracket racers themselves, George and Casey. And they were mentioning this development of the WDRA. And as Don has said and stated to me earlier, this will be the first interview for the WDRA. So I'm excited to have that right here between the slicks and get the scoop and get the news. But yes, certainly Going Bracket Racing was wondering about this development. James Qualls, what's up, MMR? Hope you had a great time at Indy this year. I did, but don't forget Mocan Dragway at Funny Car Chaos. Remember that, James. Well, we're going to be talking about that. Kenny Trent says hello. Michael, evening. Hope you're doing well there, Michael. And Christopher Evner chimes in once again. Too cool. Mocan for life. Yep, wearing the Mocan tee. Again, Mocan celebrating 60 years, and Mocan is a part of this WDRA development. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to go into drag racing news and bring you up to speed, each and every one of you in the world of drag racing, on what the heck is going on. Power-Built Tools exemplifies innovation in the tool industry. From hand tools, power tools, and even tool storage. Check out powerbuilt.com for Power-Built Tools. And remember, use promo code MMR15 for 15% off at purchase. All right, in drag news, well, we will start off as mentioned and in a prologue, if you will, to having our guest on, Don Scott, owner of WDRA. The announcement was made Tuesday in a press release that this new group, the World Drag Racing Alliance, they're a reality. They are another sanctioning body in the drag racing world. And they not only made an announcement that they are another sanctioning body in the drag racing world and making a hallmark of, hey, we're the home for the sportsman. But they have had some major tracks say, we're going to, well, yes, leave the IHRA or whatever sanctioning body they might have been with, and we are going to participate with the WDRA. And these tracks, many of them have a long history, and many of them are great facilities. Tracks such as Cordova Dragway, which just recently had a great resurgence of the World Series, longtime IHRA track. They are a member track with the WDRA now. Mocan Dragway, long history in drag racing, celebrating 60 years of drag racing with some big events this year with Nitro Chaos, Funny Car Chaos, but they have a great sportsman's program, a lot of great sportsman racers, great fans at that track. They now are a WDRA track. And then Empire Dragway, I'm definitely familiar with Empire Dragway, living outside of Rochester, New York for about 6 years. Just south of Rochester, you have Empire Dragway. Beautiful facility, longtime IHRA track, a track that even held IHRA national events, the Empire Nationals, now a WDRA track. And we continue to Keystone Raceway. As you can see, I'm wearing Keystone Raceway hat. Beautiful facility. I think the premier place to race in western Pennsylvania, just outside east of the city of Pittsburgh. You have Keystone Raceway, great facility, and now they have announced that they are a WDRA track. We also have Ottawa Dragway. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I have not been to this track. And we also have I-64 Motorplex announcing that they are a WDRA track. And then there is a council. Thank you to the WDRA Track Advisory Council for your support of sportsman drag racing. And look at some of these names. 131 Motorsports Park, Maryland International Raceway, Darlington Dragway, and then the aforementioned Mocan already. So right there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, roughly 9, 10 tracks that are tracks that, again, long history, great facilities, tracks that people definitely want to run at and they certainly want to win at, and they have announced that they are going to be a part of the WDRA. So that's why I'm glad we're going to have Don on in about 20 minutes now. We're going to talk with him. We're going to take your questions for sure. And we are going to kind of get to the bottom of this and see what the heck is going on with this development for the WDRA and what does it look like in relations to the IHRA and what are their goals? Will there ever be any professional classes? Are they concerned about having professional classes, or are they going to look at the sportsman as a pro in and of themselves, which is not a bad thing in my opinion at all, because a lot of these racers, though they're sportsmen, they definitely are in their own right professionals. So remember, around 8:30, we're going to have Don Scott on, owner of the WDRA, and we will take your questions, and I'll field questions of him, and we're going to get answers on the WDRA in this particular development. But before we have him on, let's continue with drag racing news right here on Between the Slicks and take a look back to this weekend, a great weekend. Let me say this, honestly, the greatest weekend in drag racing, because it cannot be denied. I do not believe it can be overstated. The U.S. Nationals is the biggest drag race in the world. It is the premier drag race in the world. It is the granddaddy of them all. It is the big go. It is the one that everyone wants to win. Even if you don't regularly compete in the NHRA, having that Indianapolis U.S. Nationals Wally, that is certainly something special and rare in the world of drag racing. So congratulations to Matt Smith, Greg Anderson, Ron Capps, and Antron Brown picking up victories in their respective classes at the U.S. Nationals. And let's break down quickly some of these. Antron Brown, he has won the U.S. Nationals before. This is his 4th title. He's got 2 on bikes, 2 now in Top Fuel, but he has done it now as a car owner, as an owner-driver. He picks up a U.S. Nationals win and makes a case going into the countdown that they are championship contenders Whereas earlier in the year, in no way, shape, or form would we have been talking about Antron Brown being a championship contender. But with the win in Topeka, dipping into the 60s, and now this win at the U.S. Nationals, you've got to have some chatter about him going into the countdown of being a player in it. By the way, on my YouTube channel, Monday Morning Racer on YouTube, you can see the action of him going round by round and the press conference with the media and what he had to say about the win, about the year, and, as we'll mention later, him testifying before Congress. Ron Capps, finally, the wait is over. It had been something like Dale Earnhardt levels of frustration and strange things happening. Ron honestly had won everything that you could win at Indy. He'd won Big Bud shootouts. He won the Pep Boys call out. He had won the races within the races. He'd qualified number one before. He had gone rounds on Sunday, even to the final round, and lose. He had lost by weird things and lost by normal things. He had everything go right yet wrong until this very weekend, and he picks up his first U.S. Nationals and again solidifies for him that he is one of the all-time greats in funny car, in the nitro ranks of NHRA competition. He does it as a owner, driver. He does it doubling up, sweeping the funny car races with winning the Pep Boys All-Star shootout and winning the U.S. Nationals, qualified number one, and did it the hard way, as it has been often stated on Joe Costello's show by Alan Reinhardt, others, and even at by Alan over the Tower PA system, that it's the first time since like 1984 and like records being kept, and this comes from Bob Fry, that the top qualifiers won each of their rounds. Ron did it the hard way, and in a great fashion, he did it. Greg Anderson wins his 100th Pro Stock victory, does it at the U.S. Nationals. So fitting for that to be done. And again, with the performance they've had recently, you cannot count out KB Racing and definitely Greg Anderson going into the championship fight. And Matt Smith continues to make statements to the NHRA and everyone else in Pro Stock Motorcycle that he is here to play. He's not leaving anytime soon, and he's going to get the job done no matter what it takes, even if it's switching bikes, to win a championship for himself, Denso, and all his supporters that are part of his program. With Greg, I do always like to make mention, he has to be, you have to count him, whether you're a fan or not, as the greatest pro stock competitor of all time. Now, understand what I said there. I didn't say greatest driver of all time, but I said competitor. Because if you add his wins that he got as a crew guy, and with the wins that he has now as a driver, wow, I doubt anyone is out there that can match him. Well, we're going to continue on with the winners. Lyle Barnett, he picks up the win in Pro Mod and did it the hard way, did it the challenging way. The red velvet only turbo machine out there in Pro Modified, it was not running smoothly. As I spoke with him briefly after his win, I said, man, I told people throughout the day, Red Velvet isn't smooth today. She kind of chunky, and she definitely was. He had to do some willing and driving out there to get that win, but he does pick up the win over Chris Thorne in the final round. Chris Thorne red lighting. Chris Thorne having a stellar year, by the way. Do not want that to be overlooked. Very well could be our champion in Pro Modified this year in the NHRA. But congratulations to Lyle Barnett winning the U.S. Nationals. What a spectacular story it is that Lyle Barnett, going through what he has gone through with his accident, near death, coming back, scrapping and clawing, now wins the U.S. Nationals. And not to mention what he also does in that beer money machine, goes out there and wins the no prep races as well. Johnny Placino, someone that is no stranger to the show here between the slicks, picks up the U.S. Nationals win in Mountain Motor Pro Stock competition. Remember, there's definitely a fight going on in the PDRA as well, where they often and regularly compete. Championship there in the PDRA for Extreme Pro Stock, Mountain Motor Pro Stock, but he gets the win at the U.S. Nationals. Now, Johnny, it was no stranger to winning at Indy. He picked up a Indy win, not a U.S. Nationals win, during the funky COVID Indy races. He was able to pick one up during that time, but this is his first U.S. Nationals victory in Mountain Motor Pro Stock. By the way, if you want to see the action round by round, you can see that now on the Monday Morning Racer YouTube channel, Mountain Motor at Indy, the U.S. Nationals, and see the round by round action for those Mountain Motor Pro Stocks in competition there at Lucas Oil Indianapolis Raceway Park for the U.S. Nationals. One more victor to talk about with the U.S. Nationals, David Barton. You can see him here in the Ray Barton Racing Engines machine, the Copo. He got the job done, wins the U.S. Nationals, got a photo with Greg Anderson. That's pretty cool to be in victory lane, get a photo with Greg Anderson, who just won his 100th Pro Stock win, as you win in factory stock and takes the points lead. With just 2 more races in Constant Aviation factory stock action, it is going to be tight, and it is going to be a fight. And it is coming down to the wire between a Ford and a Chevy in essence, and we see it all wrap up in Texas at the Stampede of Speed. We're going to talk about that a little later. But great action at the U.S. Nationals. For everybody out there, if you harp on the NHRA, and look, they don't do everything right. I get that. I disagree with things that they do. And I feel that they do mess up. But what organization doesn't? What person doesn't? But I will say this. You go to the U.S. Nationals and you see them run 940 cars and get it done within the window they're supposed to get it done, even with some inclement weather. Wow. Congratulations to the NHRA. Keep up the good work. And I want to say this as well. To the NHRA, and in particular to Allie Bland, director of the media in some way, shape, form, or fashion. I'm not sure what her actual title is. I put it this way: when I asked for credentials to go to an NHRA national meet, she's the one you go through. Good job, girl. There were some individuals there this past weekend from the YouTube world, YouTubers that have been able to have great reach in motorsports, such as David Land, who has 80,000 plus subscribers on YouTube, regularly speaks about IndyCar, NASCAR, IMSA, other sports car racing, was familiar with drag racing. He is a local to the Indianapolis area, but had not been to the U.S. National since 2006. Allie invited him out to come cover the race, and that type of move is a good move. Also, they invited out Mighty Mac. You can subscribe to his channel on YouTube as well. He's got here recently several NHRA videos, mini videos covering the U.S. Nationals here most recently. They invited him out. So it's definitely good to see the NHRA expanding the media portfolio and realizing people are consuming content differently than they ever have before, and content needs to go out. Because I can tell you, I remember a time as a YouTuber, Monday Morning Racer, and the platform that it is, that you were kind of ducking and dodging and weaving and zigging and zagging and making sure you didn't bump into no gray shirt NHRA official while you were trying to do and cover how you could. So it's very cool to see that progress made by the NHRA. Here recently, they put up a post that they're going to be hiring another content creator directly with the NHRA. So the NHRA does seem to be making some steps forward to progress the NHRA as a motorsport in competition with the likes of an IndyCar, a NASCAR, and a F1. And it's good to see those moves being made. Are we going to be as big as them as anytime soon? No. It's going to take a very long time, if ever, but there is definitely room for growth, and I think they are making those moves. Continuing in drag racing news, well, the Indy and the U.S. Nationals was not the only place that drag racing action was taking place. Mocan Dragway. Well, we had Funny Car Chaos there. Want to say congratulations to Mike Buchanan. He won in the D field in his beautiful Hombre Tribute Funny Car. Chris Snyder in the very popular Brutus Mustang. He picked up the win in the C field. Tom Furchess, he wins in the B field and is made in America methanol burner and makes a quite interesting points battle for second. And as we talked last night on Chaos Live, myself and David Ratton, the announcer, voice of Chaos, that, hey, we have got some fascinating points battles for second and top 5 and in the top 10. The man who took the top honors, if you will, the A field winner, as he has so many times this year, Kirk Williams in the Williams Brothers Racing 200 proof Firebird methanol burning machine. He picks up the win. Not only does he pick up the win, but it has been announced, it has been finalized, it has been calculated. He is your 2022 Funny Car Chaos champion. Kirk Williams gets it done. He's able to go into the Stampede of Speed for our last race of the year and breathe easy with his sights set on winning at the Texas Motorplex. Congratulations, Kirk. What a stellar year you have had, you and your team. And I look forward to seeing you at the Texas Motorplex and seeing you going for that win there and conquering that facility. And yet, I also look forward to whoever may very well come out next year with the target that's on your back and give you fits to do a double and repeat as champion. Well, I've been saying it many times. Funny Car Chaos, the championship finals, are going to take place October 7th through the 8th. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for a vacation around drag racing, the Stampede of Speed may very well be your ticket. It's going to kick off with Funny Car Chaos. There's going to be concerts. There's then going to be Scott Palmer's Nitro Sideshow. There's going to be a Pro Mod shootout during the week. There will be pro testing, not Nitro included, on Wednesday, and the Champions Dinner. And you're going to have then Sportsman kicking it off on Thursday, rolling into qualifying for the Fall Nationals. And then Monday, Nitro will be testing. There's barbecue and rodeo and beer festivals, you name it. It's going to be happening at the Texas Motorplex. It is worth your time. It is worth your money. It is worth getting to Texas and enjoying that event at the Texas Motorplex, the Stampede of Speed. I was there every day last year, except for the concert that kicked it off. This year, I'll be there every day. Every day I'll be there. So you can expect a lot of coverage from Monday Morning Racer, definitely Funny Car Chaos, the Nitro Sideshow there with Scott Palmer and the Pro Mod Shootout, rolling into testing, and the Fall Nationals themselves. See whether or not I'll be able to work in official capacity with the Texas Motorplex. I've been talking about that. Maybe that will happen. We'll have a couple of teams, if not just one, with the top fuel ranks to help and assist at the NHRA Fall Nationals and just covering it in general as Monday Morning Racer does, giving you all the content that I can give you as a one-man band over here. It was announced last night, and it's very exciting. Corey Mack, yes, that Corey Mack, Corey McClenathan, the Top Fuel fame, he will be at Funny Car Chaos, the Texas Motorplex, for the finals in this beautiful funny car. They have already brought it out several times this year, been working the bugs out, and they have got it performing, and they're going to come compete with some of the best in Funny Car, and they do that at Funny Car Chaos. Looking forward to having Corey Mack. Continuing in drag racing news, the Funny Car Nationals at Martin, Michigan, US 131. That's going to be taking place this weekend, and that is seeing the Midwest Drag Racing Association back in action. We haven't seen them in action for about 3 months. But the Funny Car Nationals, where you're going to have Alcohol Funny Car, the Midwest Drag Racing Series, competing along with some Nitro Burners and Jet Funny Cars, and also the Pro Mods of the Midwest Drag Racing Series at US 131 there in Martin, Michigan. That will be happening this weekend. And concerning this weekend in drag racing, sadly, the one that I was going to attend and film, Southeast Gassers at Savannah River Dragway, they have canceled that event. That event will not take place due to the area having torrential downpours for over 2 weeks and a sad, unfavorable forecast predicted for this very weekend. So, for the sake of the racers and the rigs and the fans, they are going to forego this event. We can look forward to the Southeast Gassers back in action. I believe their next race will be in Knoxville, Tennessee. Want to make mention of a few more things before we move on as we look forward to Don Scott coming on and talking with him about the WDRA. In the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association, Mike Decker, he gets the job done going back-to-back at the Yellow Bullet Nationals. He wins once again. Very well could be going on his way to picking up another championship within the Northeast Outlaw Pro Mod Association. Travis Shoemake making moves in the A-Fuel ranks. He will have Sheets, the convenience store, on his A-Fuel ride in Maple Grove and also for Charlotte, the Carolina Nationals. And this is good to see. You've got someone, though you may think it controversial with his lifestyle, whether you agree or not, he is bringing new names to drag racing. I have thought for a long time myself, how can we get Sheets into drag racing? And here you've got an individual working, crafting a deal to have a new partner brought into drag racing and exposed to the fan base that is NHRA drag racing. So it's good to see that happening, and I think that's got to happen more and more and more in the world of drag racing, bringing new partners into the sport. Lastly, with drag racing news, that man looking fly before Congress. Antron Brown testified on the behalf of us, well, let me say all of us. He was before Congress, members of Congress, and testified on behalf of the SEMA-supported Recognizing Protection of Motorsports Act, or as many of you may have heard it as the RPM Act. And what is that? That is basically protecting the modifying of vehicles and the modifying of vehicles to the point where they can become race cars. It's in essence protecting car culture and motorsports as we understand it, because there already have been those that have been hit by rules and regulations that have cost them their shops, their jobs, their careers, livelihoods. And if things are passed which the RPM Act would stand against, if passed, there's a possibility that you couldn't work on your car. There's a possibility that it would be illegal to do so, that it'd be illegal to take a car and make it into a race car. All of those type of things are coming and they're happening, and the RPM Act is an attempt to put legislation in place that protects motorsports. It's amazing that we have come to this, but that is where we are. If you want to learn more about it, I highly recommend PRI. Go to PRI. I believe it's PRI.com. You can even hear some of the horror stories that people have gone through and why the RPM Act is so important. And Antron, thank you for testifying before Congress on behalf of all of us in motorsports, not just drag racing. And by the way, he did a good job. There is video footage out there that you can view and you can see Antron did a good job. Well, we got Don Scott in the green room. I'm going to quickly go through the comments and let's see what all is happening out there in the world of drag racing before we go to our guest. So, 100 wins, Greg. Woohoo! Yes, definitely agree. Drag Racing Central, he mentions it. Travis Shoemaker signed a new sponsor to run A-Fuel at Maple Grove in St. Louis. That is good. Is Ron Capps wearing UGS? I'm not sure. What are you referring to as UGS? Marcesini Racing. Help me out there. Not sure. I'm Ron Hossein. Alex Laughlin is in Tucson for No Prep Kings. Yes, he's definitely doing the back and forth Top Fuel, No Prep Kings, and look, Alex is a wheel man. If you look into his motorsports history, even as a young man, he has almost done everything. He's done off-road racing, he's done tractor pulling, he's done kart racing. And when I say he's done kart racing at Daytona. Yes, Daytona. Like they do karts on the banking at Daytona, like you're doing 100 miles per hour and your butt's riding an inch off the asphalt. Yeah, he's even done that. Top Fuel, A Fuel, Pro Stock, Pro Mod, No Prep, you name it, and he's done it. That is interesting. Drag Racing Central. No. Funny Car Chaos does not have champions for A, B, C, or D fields. There is one champion. So everybody is competing against each other in their respective fields for one championship. Thus, Kirk Williams is wise announced that there's only one champion, and it is Kirk Williams. Duchesne Bland, good to have you along, man. Tom Thumb, possible. Maybe this maybe this opens the door. He says Drag Racing Central. I love a sponsor that the average Joe actually knows what it is like. Nothing against sponsors now, but no one knows what 90% of them are. That is a fascinating statement, Drag Racing Central, and I would have to agree. You look at some of the sponsors out there that are on cars, and you have to wonder, what is that? What do you do? How does that actually impact me? And, well, the nature of so many sponsorships have become business to business. Sometimes they don't directly impact you and me. Here's an example. For a long time, I can't even say it. Hangusfisters. Oh, butchering it. Anyway, they sponsor Anshawn Brown, and they're with Don Schumacher Racing, or they were. They basically make machining fluid, from what I understand. Well, guess what? That doesn't impact me. But Sheetz, that definitely impacts me. I've bought gas at Sheetz. I've bought food at Sheetz. They're in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Virginia. You can find them on the East Coast in that kind of mid-Atlantic central area. And they're good convenience stores. They do a good job. But it is nice, and I agree with you, to see sponsors that have impact on, yes, the average Joe. Jessica Hicks Spears says Nick Hastings wins $100,000 on Saturday during the BTE Labor Day 250,000K at Bristol Dragway. Well, thank you for including us on that. And definitely, I know my drag racing, going bracket racing boys on the Going Bracket Racing YouTube channel, they definitely talked about that. And Jessica, keep up your good work within the world of drag racing as well. Well, look, folks, we're going to take a break. Right after the break, we're going to get Don Scott on, owner of the WDRA, World Drag Racing Alliance, for his first interview on the WDRA and what in the world is happening in the world of drag racing. Don Scott, right after this break.
If you own a beautiful modern muscle car like this 1320 Challenger, I'm sure you don't want it stolen. Because the Challenger and many other modern vehicles have an easily accessible neutral release strap. That was your coin holder in your center console, and beneath that there's this red cord that someone can pop, put it into neutral, and potentially easily steal your car. But at Destroyer1320.com, they have the TDS, Theft Deterrent System, which is a cover over that strap using factory mounting points so that you don't get popped by a thief. So make sure to go to Destroyer1320.com using promo code MMR for 15% off and get your Theft Deterrent System TDS and steal the thieves' hope.
Mr. Don Scott, welcome to Between the Slicks. How are you doing this evening, man?
Man, I am doing great. I think I need a little more shield on my shades, man.
I've got all different colors of the same different shape from the great Oakley company. And yes, thank you, Scotty Cannon, for ruining me for life and making me have an addiction. So yes.
Mine go back to clear when I come inside. So just the way the transitions work, my friend.
Well, hey, speaking of transitions, wow, what a transition drag racing is going through at this very moment. Before we dive in directly on the WDRA, what is your background, Don? Why is it good news for the sportsman racer that Don Scott is an owner of a new sanctioning body within the world of drag racing?
So twofold and a great first question. I've been in the drag racing sport since 1970, Motion Raceway, up until today. Our kids ran 12 years of junior dragsters. I still run sportsman car, run super gas, the 90s stuff, and have traveled all over the country and been part of this sport now for upwards of 40 years. So the last 2 years, if you guys have been following me at all, I ran a small track in central Illinois, Havana, Illinois, actually, and have been prepping myself for this for multiple years. So this has been a dream for quite a long time. Have spent a lot of time with industry guys and getting ourselves organized and ready to do this. And I just thought the time was right. There's a lot of upheaval within our sport today. But the second part of that, probably the most important part, for the last 30 years, I've spent my life in orthopedic surgery. So we have a company that has a footprint in 36 states today. We have a little over 100 total 1099 employees. And I think we have the acumen and the vision to be able to pull this off at a national event level. So we know what it's like in different cities, different states, different places. We understand all the things that we need to do in order to put this together. And I think I have the organization and the team to build out websites, to build out programs, to build out why the racers are there. And, I've spent a lot of time in every sanctioning body pits, and I don't know that everybody feels right now that they get the great value for the dollars that they spend. So let's be clear what this is about. It's building out value for racetracks, for promoters, for team owners, for all of those different things. Track operators and racers are the premium, and the fans in the stands. So it's up to me to put the programs together to make sure bracket racing stays the way it is. And quite frankly, what I see in the market right now is not that. So it's a perfect time for us to do it. We talked about it forever. And with what's going on with some of the competing things, timing's right. Off we go.
All right, great, Don. And ladies and gentlemen, we're definitely going to be taking your questions and want to get to the point that we will be taking your questions. I just think there's some preliminary things to get out of the way. So, Don, why are we at this point? What precipitated in the IHRA? Now you got WDRA. I heard something about IDRA and all the other alphabet soup swirling around out there. What caused this?
So what caused this is what's caused this my entire life. When we look at markets, we look at cities, and we look at states, they're totally in disarray. And that's when we put together something, we call it power washing the orthopedic industry. And we put those programs together when they're not in place from what we see happening. We do not see the direction of anything competitive. I also don't want to be disrespectful to anything that's happening in drag racing. I've been doing this for most of my adult life, and I would work with any of those programs that are currently in place. But the focus moving forward that I see is the same as I see in our orthopedic world. The timing's right and the market is right for us to put together something that's focused on track operators and racers. 75% of the racers who pay their sanction fees do it at the team finals. And you know why they do that? Because there's no value in it. There's nothing that they get for that. They simply have to do it if they want to go to their bracket finals or the world finals or whatever. It's not value. So it's our job as a sanctioning body to provide value. Track operators and track owners should not be sitting down every day and saying, how much do I have to pay for sanctioning? Where do I buy fuel? How do I get traction compound? How do I do all these different things? That's what a sanctioning body should be doing on a daily basis. And that's what I feel like we can deliver. So the upheaval in the market is the reason why we're doing what we're doing.
All right. So going to impact the market, help the racetracks out there and those who operate them and the racers that race at them. All sounds good. Speaking of the tracks, listed off several of them that have already decided to get on board with the WDRA. And we did have someone already ask, going bracket racing in particular, how many tracks are you thinking that the WDRA will have? What is the capacity? Is there a certain number you all are shooting for? Is the sky the limit? Do you need to cap it at a particular place?
No, we don't really need to cap it. And I've got some breaking news that I'll give you. Our guys are emailing me all through the day, and my phone's been blown up since we put this out. With us already having a national level footprint and the logistics to do all this nationally already, it's super easy for us to move forward. We could move every track to us 30 days and be ready to go live, staffed, and move forward. So I had my experience with competitive race, sanctioning bodies the last couple of years, and they all had limitations on what they could run. Could they run this program or that one? They were limited by the number of people. We already have the number of people to be able to scale this thing nationally. So we could take every track tomorrow, and I'm 100% confident with the staff I have to move forward with a program that would be like it's never been before.
Speaking of a specific, going bracket racing, you're going to hear that name probably regularly through this program. They asked, will there be class racing?
So awesome question. And you're going to hear me jump between what I know and really why I think most guys should call me over the next few weeks and talk about a business plan. When we go somewhere and we start talking about what's the plan, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm a 90 racer. I don't think that's priority one as we build a foundation of a program. If we look back into the medical environment that we live in, we enter a market, we hire the correct staff, we train them, we put the logistics in place, and we do what we're good at, and that's orthopedic surgery. We don't try to do heart attacks. So I think the foundation that we have to get in place first is to figure out how to continue these programs, your Summit Super Series, those type programs. And I think you're going to see a huge crossover on the number of sponsors that we can bring that are in my world today that are not in that world as we speak. So core one for me is to look at getting an anchor around the current programs that are out there and make sure that they're the stable for all these track owners, track operators, and racers, and that they're in place and ready to go. And there's no more upheaval or worry about that. Behind that, I think everything, and this is what I've learned in the last 2 years of running a racetrack, there is every type of racing happening around the country. And I don't know that one is more important or less than the other. Class racing is happening, and where they have them, they're very successful. I think a good sanctioning body looks at that very hard and figures how to work with the groups that are having successful events today. But I do not think our small track in Havana, Illinois could class race next Saturday night. We'd have 2 cars. So we have to get ourselves in order with a bracket program, the Super Series, and get everybody headed down that path together. And then we move forward into class racing, 90 racing, all these things that we have on a magic whiteboard that we'd love to do. I think it's super important that we get those things out after we have put the bracket program in place first and above all.
So we're definitely going to take some more questions from the audience. I do want to ask, I always find it interesting because I was a part of this when I was pastoring a church and we went through a revitalization. What are we going to name this thing? What are we going to be? What is our brand and identity? And you all went with the WDRA, World Drag Racing Alliance. So why? Why that particular arrangement of the alphabet soup?
If we look at that, there are, man, if you start looking at 4-letter acronyms that go with drag racing, you'll find 2,000 of them. So for us, Scott Gardner finally came up with what I thought was the best of the ideas. And it really shows the atonement of the industry and the guys we have in place to sit down and talk about just these things. So we wanted the world to be part of it, and we didn't want to be an association. We wanted to be an alliance. Understand this and be clear. Our job is to work on behalf of track operators and racers. It's not to be a sanctioning body that puts out a rule book. If there are no racetracks, and when we talk about class racing, 90 racing, no prep, all the different things that could happen, somebody's got to organize this or there's not going to be any tracks left. And that's the takeaway for us that we found to be most important. We did all of those things at our track over the last couple of years. We had fuel cars. We had anything that you could think of, jet cars, on and on and on. At the end of the day, WDRA, we believe, is an alliance, and we'd love for it to start out nationally and eventually be the one sanctioning body that makes sense across everywhere we go.
Definitely a great vision there of being expansive and yet inclusive for those within the world of drag racing. Joseph Raleigh, I'm assuming that's how it's stated, he asked, real racer question here. Will I now need 3 licenses, 3 chassis certs? That's not racer friendly. So how does that look on the radar at the moment for the WDRA?
That sounds like something that should have been in the business plan, huh? Great question. So for us, mark this down, write this down, and I just said it. We are going to accept any license that you currently have until it expires. I don't want you to have 3 licenses, 3 chassis certs. What we envision and what we see is that you should try us before you embed with us. Try us, run at our tracks, be part of our programs, understand what's different with our track operators, with our racers, what we're doing. And when that license expires, I hope that we've done enough that you renew it with us. There is $0 out of pocket for you guys to come and race with us versus the license you currently have in your pocket. And I don't know how else to do that more straightforward than tell you why in the world would we expect you to try it if it costs you money. People hate those fees and all the things that go with it. We believe that as we move forward, we should earn that right, not expect it January 1.
All right. Speaking of, as you mentioned a little bit, you mentioned Scott Gardner. Talk about the team that has been formed with the WDRA so far. You've got some experienced people on the panel, and that is included in the operation from the track operation level to owning and operating tracks and sanctioning bodies. So talk about the team.
Yeah. So I spent, again, the last 2 years of my life, I will tell you, I learned as much of anybody from guys like Kurt Johnson. I mean, that I've spent a lot of time with Kurt to understand it is my envisionment that you cannot do something like run a sanctioning body if I can't handle every aspect of every job that's within that group. So for the last couple of years, it's been guys like Kurt. It's been guys like Scott Gardner. It's been going to the regional track operator meetings. It's been going to all these different forums to understand what every piece of that looks like and how do we make it more efficient. And that's been the biggest thing for me, is that nobody who runs an organization like that should know every component down to what kind of mops are used at the starting line. So we've studied starting line beams, timing systems, all the things that it takes to move forward. And I can tell you, as myself, as a guy trying to learn that, I have no idea how these guys do it. There's no playbook to turn to say, where do I buy compound? What's my this? What's my that? That should be very spelled out by a sanctioning body. If you have your own local deal and it's better what we could negotiate nationally, use it, be part of it. But we at a minimum should have a playbook that these guys should use.
Sounds very good. I have been surprised at times when you speak to a track owner or operator and they don't know the track owner and operator down the street. Now, sometimes that's just someone not taking the time to go meet that person, but you think that a sanctioning body, an alliance, if you will, would facilitate those type of things and make sure there's cooperation with sometimes, many times, the same racer pool at one track one night and at the other track the other night. So it's good to hear that, hey, give them a playbook and make it available for them and make it that much easier for them to be able to do their job and take some of the headaches away is what I feel like that I'm hearing from you, and put it on the shoulders of the alliance.
Yeah, Lee, one of the things that I can tell you that I came up against, and again, I live in Springfield, Illinois, born and raised here. I've never moved. And the one of the first things when we got together in Illinois that we're going to facilitate for 2023 are some of these Illinois, regional race here, race there, increase the pot, and have the tracks work together. What I see, and I look at this stuff every day, there's $5,000 to win here, there's $10,000 to win there. And we have the same couple hundred racers that we're all trying to fight to have at that place. So I agree. The sanctioning body has to step into that and say, let's run yours on the 23rd. Let's run that one on the 17th. And let's start working together. We have a limited number of guys. The average guy wants to travel no more than a couple hours. And somebody's got to organize that. And for the last 2 years of my life, It's not there. It's not part of life. There's no one to call. You have to have somebody in your office who checks those schedules and tries to keep it all straight. It's virtually impossible if you don't have a staff of people that are able to keep that stuff straight for you. You're on top of something. And I know it's tough right now as we go around the world, but it's not that tough if we know the logistics of why guys want to travel. Fuel prices are up. I mean, all these things are happening. We have to get smarter with where we're racing and what programs are where.
Diving into what may very well be specifics and something later on for the future, but crafting and framing out that vision of expansive where people are aligned to this particular group, no matter what type of drag racer or where they're doing drag racing. Sam Smith, he asks, will you try to bring in some outlaw racing? So what type of racing is the WDRA looking at? Like right now, IHRA, they got to a point where it seemed like it was solely bracket racing. There was no professional. There was no prep, nothing was happening under the banner except maybe at the track, but nothing officially other than bracket racing. Then, NHRA's got all its programs that it has. So what are we looking at with WDRA, and where could we get racer-wise?
So the first thing, and again, in the last 2 years, I've had all of those things at our racetrack, and I did it on purpose. It was so that I could build out a financial pro forma to hand to track operators and say, the bracket finals are this weekend. Your track's closed. Great weekend to have a no prep event. It's different racers. It's not the same guys. And that's just one example of the things that I've spent the last couple of years studying and understanding why and how each one of those are not the same racers. In the bracket program, that is the concrete of every racetrack that I think everywhere we go. We are working on, and I do not have the ability to disclose this tonight, but we have a very good Holly EFI tuner that lives about an hour from me that I am really bugging to be part of our council. And he lives in that world, the LDR cars, the outlaw racing, all those different things. And the core of this is securing a Summit Super Series style sanctioning area and have the same things we've always had. But there's no reason we don't bring those guys in and say, how do we run those on off weekends? Bracket racers don't want to race. They're not going to miss Indy or the World Finals to go to a no prep event at your track, but that could be the perfect timing to have something that you've never done before. I also understand the financial resources that it takes to put these on. And that sanctioning body has to stand up and say, we can help you with a pro forma to understand. Where do we find 8 fuel cars to have them in here? We're going to have a Rolodex of guys that travel and bring fuel cars. Who brings jet cars? Where's the wheel standers? All these things that can be revenue for track operators. The more money that we can get to track operators, the more racers that are going to be there for weekly programs because the payout goes up. This is pretty simple. It's just not ever been organized, in my opinion. And, we have to start somewhere. So that's the game plan.
You there toward the end mentioned track operators heavily. You already have a great lineup of tracks under this WDRA banner. Some gentlemen that I respect, such as Greg Miller there at Keystone Raceway, which has a great facility, and he continues to improve it and make it better. Carl Blanton there at Mocan Dragway has been doing this for a very long time. Gerald Kramer at Eddyville Raceway Park, which is a staple track with many different types of racing, from fuel altered funny cars all the way to the bracket program. What is your pitch to the track operator? Why should a track place themselves and align themselves with the WDRA?
Well, and again, to answer that directly, as we speak tonight, and there's going to be a release that goes out and emails are coming through, we're going to be in the mid-20s for tracks as we speak tonight. So for something that's a few days old, I would not have believed that we could be in the mid-20s for signed tracks. The question on why you would do that, I would tell you to pick up the phone and go through that business plan with me. And you could spend 2 hours tonight on every single line that we have been studying and looking at and understanding. Most track operators have engaged our team to talk through. I think they respect Scott Gardner, who's owned racetracks, who's run successful racetracks, who has helped pioneer and engineer this thing from the ground up. This is not a venture capital company who owns something that's trying to figure out the world of drag racing. These are guys that know this frontwards and backwards. And I think the leap is pretty easy if you talk to the other guys that have had the spiel, or if you pick up the phone and call me tomorrow and go through it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's well documented. I think we've done the work of understanding what wasn't here. And we know that concreting these programs is longevity for all of us. So the why you're seeing the high profile guys, I think is a testament to the guys that have joined me in building this thing out.
Yes, I would certainly agree. And we had a question here. Let me see if I can find it. Glenn Barbas Jr., I believe I'm saying that correctly. Will there be media materials available for promoting WDRA available to the tracks? And I want to put, in addition to that, what do you all plan on doing to highlight the alliance and highlight the racers within? Because I have felt like for many years, you go to IHRA social media before all of this has transpired and them being bought, and it's like, what are y'all doing? You update your profile picture, and that's it. And that's all I see regularly. So from the media side, social media, getting the word out and promoting the racer and the tracks and the operators therein, what are some of the plans that you all have?
So we state very clearly on our medical side, the way we stay relative to the world. We get up, we have a bowl of Cheerios, and we post something. We put something out. We put something of relevance out at least once a day. Our website, our materials that have been released were released Tuesday, if I'm not mistaken. So in 48 hours, if you looked at that from the first time to the professionalism that you see on it today, and what you're going to see with all these tracks being added tomorrow, I think you're going to be shocked. Little things that a sanctioning body should be doing. What's the email of the track that joined? What's the website for the track? What do they have for events that are going on? That makes it easier, in my opinion, for other tracks to look at one place and say, oh shit, I shouldn't have a 10,000 to win because there's already 5,000 to win at Donnie's track. Getting all of that out, the connections to their Facebook, to their Twitters, those will all be housed and are being housed on our website today, which is not 48 hours old. So we're going to see this move very quickly, and you're going to see something of relevance every day. It's our job to make this not become the $100 that you have to spend at the team finals. I hate that when I hear it. And I hate when I'm at an NHRA event, not to be negative, because I love drag racing and bracket racing, but we sit in the pits and we say, are they taking care of the sportsman guys? I hope so, and I hope it gets better. But man, I've sit in those pits a lot of times. And for us, you'll know exactly what we're doing. It will be on those websites every day.
And you can definitely see that you all are updating and progressing. Again, the website, you mentioned it's under works, but even the short time that there has been a Facebook page, you all have put out regular posts here recently announcing what tracks are aligned and within the alliance and what to expect. And even with this very show tonight, you all, made notice that there was going to be this type of interview and questions were going to be able to be put forth, and you all were going to answer. So good work thus far. Drag Racing Central says, will WDRA affect the track's own events they put on? Example, PDRA at MIR and many others. You kind of alluded to that, but I don't think there would be a conflict. If anything, a celebration thereof.
Celebration completely. There's an important aspect that I want to bring up that I want everybody that can hear my voice to talk through and understand. The insurance side of this is, I can't, the only thing that's more Sue happy in this world would be orthopedic surgery. So of course I picked both of them to live my career in. But our conservative nature as it relates to insurance, we have to educate the tracks that if they bring in, like we brought in a no prep guy, I think they probably went crazy that we forced them to have us as an underwriter on the insurance. All of this information has to go out to track operators so that when they do other series, other events, other things, if it's bettering the track and increasing their revenue, it's going to better the bracket program for all the racers that are a part of it. So for us, it's about getting insurance, but more importantly, not only supporting the things that they bring in, but understanding that when they do, how they should be properly insured. And Lee, if I could, on the racers thing, if you were at a driver's meeting at my track in the last 2 years, I'm going to tell you the first thing I learned 2 years ago when I took over a racetrack. Our kids went all over the country, and we kept an NHRA license, and we ran at outlaw tracks, we ran at IHRA tracks, we ran anywhere that we could take junior dragsters and go race them. I did not have the knowledge or understanding of how simple it is to buy a $100 license with whatever sanctioning body your track has and what insurance avenue that opens for you. It is really dumb to have a $250,000 race car and $1 million stacker, and we didn't have the proper insurance if we were to have an accident. So we're going to be advocates of insurance because of the nature of what I've worked in for so long, but more importantly, educating tracks and racers on why they might want to look at that. So yes, we would support events at racetracks that make a ton of sense on weekends when, you know, they have the bandwidth to run outside of the normal bracket program that gets us the bread and butter of our life.
And, you know, someone chiming in that runs outside of that regular bracket program, Chris Graves, the owner and promoter of Funny Car Chaos. Hey, boss, how you doing? And he has definitely done a great job carving out within the world of drag racing a place that is thriving and growing. And, you know, definitely I know that would want to be celebrated. But, hey, giving a shout out here, he says, looking forward to Mr. Scott and his highly experienced staff making the sport better for us all. You definitely got some positivity behind this movement. I know there is some negativity. For those that are saying positive things, say what you will. And for those that are saying negative things, say what you do want to say.
Yeah, so important thing with Chris Graves, I can't say enough. Chris was part of I got to introduce myself at one of our track operator meetings, and Chris took me under his wing, and he's like, man, you look like a guy with no shoes in the shoe store. You look serious, but you have no idea what you're doing. And 2 years ago, the interactions that I've had with Chris, it has nothing but honed me into understanding this sport at a myriad of level. And I can't say thank you enough to Chris and his entire team. We got to share quite a few nights to go through how this should look, and you know, how well his organization is doing and what they're doing moving forward. For the naysayers, I think it's really important that, you know, we joked around in our office today, would you join a fairly new guy who's obviously been successful in the business world that has a ton of experience? You know, this quickly, I would have some questions. And that's why my phone has rang nonstop for the last 48 hours. I mean, it literally sit it down, pick up another one. And the track operators, the guys that are running this at a very high level had a million questions. And for the naysayers, pick up the phone, form an opinion after you've had a conversation, and ask those hard questions. Another hard thing that we do not do, we do not remove. If you have a negative comment and you put it on our website, we will eventually address those globally. If they're a problem, we need to hear it. The whole shady stuff of removing posts and hiding behind and blocking, I don't think that grows our sport. We do this racer style. When I walked into Havana, we made a comment, this will be a racer's racetrack. And this organization has to be about racers and about track operators, period. So for the naysayers, get yourself educated, call me. And I can't be everything to everyone. There will be allegiances. We've been drag racing for 100 years. So there will be allegiances that I'm not going to be able to overcome. I'm just going to do what we do and be stable.
All right. We do have some questions concerning tracks. Like we've got Cheyenne Everett. I hope I'm saying that right. Will you be working with the smaller tracks that aren't really seen? Well, the answer there is yes, because you already announced several of those kind of small tracks. You're definitely working with those. And got a question from an emailer. Go ahead.
Lee, those small tracks are going to be that's me. I just ran a track that if you had 200 cars at the front gate, the 181st car comes through with the police saying you're over limit, man. You guys are full. So when I see these guys that have 500 racers, I just spent my last 2 years of my life in a very small track. And I'm telling you this, I want no more of those to close. So whatever we can do, however we can do it, whatever we can do as a body to keep those open, that is priority for me. The grassroots has been the word of the week, man. That's the the word that I just lived grassroots. I mean, and that is a huge, huge point of my heart and where it's at.
And it seems like you even alluded to this very question, saying, almost in a sense, by any means necessary. Mark Weaver, he emailed me and says, "Hey, are you guys going to be buying tracks and trying to keep them open?" And he mentions one in Waynesboro, Virginia. So, is that a possibility for this body to, I don't know, do some drag racing planting, almost like the church planting world, and say, "Hey, we're going to take this track, we're going to revive it, find the right person for it, and get it back going for drag racing"?
Man, I got to default to my team there. I mean, if our team of guys sat down and said the situation was right, I wouldn't knock or go against that. But again, that's not the focus of the first thing. And other guys that have run sanctioning bodies, the first thing they do is try to own property. And I've watched the NHRA and the IHRA do it. And even when you see these sanctioning bodies sell, like some have done here in the recent within the last few months, where they made their money, those are venture capital guys who made their money in property. Our money, our longevity, our reality is racers racing and track operators being able to survive. I don't know that coming in there and trying to buy their track is a smart play or a good play, but systematically, we want to have the option to be able to invest in places that might need a pickup. I don't want a track to close because they can't buy a timing system. I don't want a track to close because they can't pave the shutdown area. I would rather us and the management team, and I'm telling you, the guys that I have behind me are phenomenal at this. And you speak of guys like Kurt Johnson. Let's go to Kurt with a plan of how we get that paving done, how we pave. You're going to hear me go right back to a business plan. So I think we want to do more investing with track operators to make them more viable. You can't run 4-second cars if you have 1,000 foot of shutdown area. So those things, when they come out, what do we do? Do we close the track? Do we not run them? Do we help them to figure out that problem and make it move forward? There's a lot of fast bracket cars around that can't run at certain places because guardrails are an issue. They don't have poured walls. How do we do that? And you talk about Carl and his team at Mocan, unbelievable what he has done for me in understanding how to put this together and what makes sense. All those things sound like I really have this all organized. Those are 100% the result of finding the right guys that say, here are what tracks face every day. Here are what racers face every day. So I just get to be the guy on TV. You know what I mean?
Yes. So we'll keep throwing a few more questions at you here as we begin to wind down with the show this evening. Let's see. Here's a good one. Going bracket racing. When is the first official WDR sanctioned event? What's in the plans, man?
So the plans, do we say it's the TBD? Is that the initials? I'm learning all the acronyms. So whenever you get pinched to a question you don't want to answer, you say to be determined. I will tell you this. We will have our organization, our logistics, and our team ready to start 1/1 of 2023. So if you're at a track in Florida and you run 1/1 2023, we do have all the insurance in place, all the logistics in place, all the sponsor stuff that we need to move this thing forward. 1/1/23, we are live, we are running, period. End of story. I can't make the weather better in Central Illinois. Probably April will be the first one in Central Illinois.
Wow, if you were a sanctioning body that could change the weather, that would be fabulous. And I think everybody would switch, but no ability there.
Lee, it rained on me. And for the guys that were at Havana, it rained on me for an entire year. And I'm not kidding you, brutal. But again, you learn what these guys are up against. We learned quickly the equipment that we needed, what we could and couldn't afford. So,
right, and it's tough out there. I just had to mark a race off my schedule this weekend where I would have got content and interacted with people that I thoroughly enjoy interacting with. Southeast Gassers Association at Savannah River Dragway, because of the rain that they have had and that is forecasted. They've had like 2 weeks of rain. I'm sure it's a swamp down there, rain coming. It wouldn't be conducive to having an event, people parked and stacked and fans coming in. So it's definitely an issue. It's definitely a part of operating a track and even the sanctioning body. So Kroger Sucks 45. Again, I say often the greatest handle in all of YouTube. And great to meet you, Mr. Kroger sucks 45 at Cruise Petragon's open house. That was a cool deal. He asked, "Is the insurance a big problem for teams and track owners?" And you've mentioned that already tonight. Explain to the lay people, why is insurance such an issue with tracks, with racers?
So
Take
Lee,
us into that world so we understand it.
yeah. So the important part, and again, when we go back to when I first took this on, we work in a world where malpractice insurance is a huge part of it. We're in operating rooms. There are situations that don't always go correctly. So the legal aspect or insurance aspect of that has been just a driver for our business for 30 years. If we don't have the coverage, we can't be there. I mean, that's as simple as it gets moving forward. One of the very first things that I put in place when we started this program was I looked at our sanctioning agreement that we had at our little racetrack, and I compared it to the policy that we got from the insurance carrier. And you know what? They were not the same. There were things that were in there that had not been updated because we write boilerplate. If you look at the sanction agreement that we just rewrote and put out, if you look at that, the reason we tell you to look at current insurance coverages is they change just like your car and home insurance does. It's a 0.5% deductible. It's $1,000. It's all these different things. But at the end of the day, the sanctioning body should have the responsibility to educate the track operator and the racer on how they keep themselves most protected. There's nobody that I know that has a $500,000 racing operation that wouldn't throw $100 at the insurance if you got nothing else out of it. When we talked about value, I think part of that value is the education of what insurance is. Our insurance at our racetrack in Havana was, if I remember right, $592 for Saturday and about $350 on Saturday night. So we have $1,000 a week at a little racetrack that's looking to have 80 to 100 cars weekly. So, I don't have the experience yet on what the big tracks pay, but I know that it just multiplies as the amount of cars and the amount of coverage goes up. So it is a significant part of that mix. And the other thing that I ran into, there was no program from the sanctioning body of how we buy compound and at what price. I mean, if you use X or you use Y, nobody cares what you use and what works best for your racetrack, but you should have an option from the sanctioning body of how you buy that stuff and how you procure it. And that didn't happen, and it's going to happen, move forward. I mean, we talked to a fuel manufacturer today at length for over an hour that we are going to have options so that our track and racers can have those things in front of them at the best value that there is in the market. Insurance is a huge deal, compound's a huge deal, and fuel's a huge deal.
I definitely think this recent compound shortage and being able to be at tracks and be in the tower and overhear conversations with racetrack owners and operators to the guy on the tractor and the guy spraying it and the racer, it exposed some flaws in the system, because it is amazing to me the amount of tracks that had to so quickly announce, hey, we are going to go from quarter mile to eighth mile, even though we're a quarter mile facility. Hey, we're going to start limiting how often we're racing because of this compound issue. And it wasn't just exposing the supply chain issue, but as you've been mentioning here, there should have been solutions in place, or someone should have been able to come up with something.
1,000%. I mean, if you just take that and parallel onto that, we buy our products on a national basis. So when we buy things to take into surgery, we have the buying power of 36 states and 120 markets. We don't go to them and buy the one for Tulsa or Nebraska. We buy the one for the country, and we procure a price and we procure a distribution network for those items. That's not happened here. So the amount of traction compound should have been procured and handled before they started that racing season. And if they ran out, we should have already been in play. And it's easy to secondary quarterback that thing. I didn't get to live that, and it hadn't happened before. So it might have caught me like it did everyone else. But we should, as a group, our buying power as a group, as a track operator and as a racer, should be known. Racers are buying parts from AutoZone or Napa or whatever. Those companies should be part of what it is that we're doing every day, because we're buying all their products. How we procure those things should be available and part of that business plan. And it is and will be if I'm involved.
So Don, David Hearn wants to know, how does a guy get one of those Mike's Speed Shop shirts? That
oh man, you got to know a guy. It's kind of like the Mocan one, and I'm hoping Chris Graves is going to be able to send something out tonight because I learned a lot about putting our flyers out. The only thing behind a flyer is a good T-shirt. So if we can, maybe we can get Mike to send a bunch of those out. Good buddy of mine, been a high school friend, one of the best wiring guys in the United States. So just a quick shout out to a really great guy. And funny question.
All right, Don. One last question for you for the night. Mike McConnell, this may very well be a specific, may not have it all laid out at this point in time. It lines up with another question that Sam Smith had. Are you going to be proactive with junior dragsters as far as allowing new technology? And I will tack to that youth programs within the WDRA to continue to bring in fresh blood to the sport of drag racing. What are your thoughts?
It's the only way that we go forward. The junior program is 100%. And if you guys follow me and follow local racers and what we're about at our local tracks, this is something that we do through our medical company. There are multiple times a year. I do one thing. I don't go and add $500 to that weekly Super Pro amount. I go and pay for all the entries for the juniors. And we've been doing that proactively, for quite a long time. So the reason we do that, and I will step back to Bill Simpson, and I'm going to get the year wrong, but I'm going to tell you 15 years ago, we never got in a car without a Hans. And I know there's all kinds of, like you said, there's good points and bad points. Some hate it, some don't. But working in what I did and watching what happens in trauma surgery, we made the decision to wear those all along. That probably the number one program in my heart is the junior dragsters, because if we don't get that right, there is no bracket racing. There is no racing moving forward. I'll be 56 in March. Eventually, I'm too old to get in a car. So if we don't invest in that above all, we had at Havana an over $5,000 to win junior dragster event at that little track that we had. So that is core. I would challenge anybody that's been around me and what we did to see what we did for the junior dragsters and what we will do for them moving forward. So great question again, but that's core. I mean, that has to be the driver.
All right. Last question. Sorry,
Right.
I said that other one was the last question. I'm doing my preacher thing. We never end. Will there be a rule book 1/1 of 2023? How will that work?
We said we were going racing 1/1.
All
Be
right.
ready.
There we go.
We're not here to bowl, man. We're here to run a sanctioning body. We're here to do this at an elite level. We've had to work. Here's the last piece that I would tell you on the why or why not, Don Scott. We've built our business around orthopedic surgeons our entire life. If you look at what they require, they require excellence in every step of what they do every day. You don't get to go to surgery and say, man, I just kind of missed that one. I didn't bring a quart of oil. Sorry. That never gets to happen. So I am probably oversensitive to being organized, planning this out. Yes, a rule book will go out. Yes, there are things that have to be in that rule book 1/1. And yes, we're going to follow it everywhere we go.
Don, thank you for your time and cluing us in on the WDRA. And I definitely feel like a lot of questions have been answered tonight for people out there that are wondering what the heck is going on in the world of drag racing and the sportsman ranks, especially. And it's good to hear that there is an expansive vision that the WDNRA is going to be working to. I think it's important for everybody, every track, to say, hey, we haven't reached our potential. Continue moving forward and continue expanding and making the product better. And it sounds like you and your team are definitely going to be working on that to get that accomplished for yourselves and the racer and the tracks. And that is good news to me, and I imagine to many that have been watching tonight and questioning tonight. Any final statements from you, Mr. Scott?
Last statement for me, and I've made an entire career out of that. I have a funny thing. I have a telephone that rings. So if you ever question what that is, obviously right now we're getting over 400 calls per day. I will return every one. My email is on the WDRA site. If we have a live conversation, I'll give you the email that's in my pocket. So what I would tell you at the end, and to be very simple with this, we have a team that really cares about moving bracket format forward, but more importantly, the sport that we all love to a height and take the confusion away. So email me, call me, and at the end of it, everybody has to make a decision. I mean, I don't think that any of those other things, need to go away or any of that. All I'm saying is there's a fresh look at a way to do it better, and we would like to interview for that job.
Where can people find that information to contact you?
RaceWDRA.com, Facebook WDRA. My cell phone is 217-836-6611. It is attached to me, and it's like I tell people, if you're going to wear one of those, answer it. I mean, that's as simple as that, the way it works. So, and I mean that for racers. I mean that for track operators. If there's something that you need, we are building this out. We cannot be a racers organization and already have it the way we want it. There are going to be things that get brought up. I sat at a table and said, I got experience. I've been doing this 2 years. And in 5 minutes between Gardner and Carl and those guys and Royce, I realized, I need to just shut up and listen a lot because those guys know this way better than I do. So, again, I'm lucky that I'm in a career where I can do this out front and be part of it. I'm also fortunate that I have the wherewithal to be able to put this together and make it make sense.
All right, Mr.
All right,
Scott.
buddy, thank you.
Thank you for your time, man.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Don Scott, owner of the WDRA World Drag Racing Alliance, answering your questions. Since the Tuesday announcement, there definitely has been a lot of swirling questions concerning what this body was all about and what it was going to be doing and how it was going to be doing it. And I hope that many of those questions have been answered. If your question was not answered, well, he told you how to get in contact with him and reach out to the WDRA. Do so. Reach out to him. As he mentioned many times, take a look at the business plan. I'm going to be closing out the show here in a few moments. I do something called the burn down. That's kind of my little opinionated segment. It's going to be completely different from what we just talked about. But I, frankly, am sick and tired of people having these issues amongst the fuel ranks with the particular manufacturers and the OEMs. This is what I'm getting at. Ron Capps wins the U.S. Nationals. Finally does it after like 25 years. And all of this positivity, Ron, you got it done. Congratulations. Ron, we're so happy for you. We don't have to ask when will it happen anymore. So on and so on. There are these people saying things such as, well, he's in a Toyota. I have nothing for him. Well, what kind of Toyota part is on that car? Well, frankly, what kind of Dodge part is on Hagen's car? What kind of Ford part is on Tasca's car? What kind of part of Chevy is on John's car? Do you people not realize that the accurate statement when it comes to the fuel ranks, and in particular the block, it is no longer a 426 Chrysler Hemi. It is based, created from and around, but yet modified. You can go to John Force Racing. I was at John Force Racing there this past week. Guess what? They machine the blocks at John Force Racing. They machine the blocks at DSM, Don Schumacher Machining. They machine the blocks there at Brad Anderson. I mean, Chrysler has nothing to do with it anymore, ladies and gentlemen. Stop it. Pull for a guy. Pull for a gal. Get over it. Oh, he's in a Toyota. You realize Toyotas are made here in the United States of America? Those people who make those comments, and if you're one of them, educate yourself. Because Ford is an American nameplate. Chevy is an American nameplate. Dodge is an American nameplate. The individual, he had nothing to say when I asked him, would you like to show me the Fiat Chrysler stamp on the block? Yeah, Fiat Chrysler. Oh, by the way, where does the Hemi come from? You realize the Hemi wasn't a Chrysler thing first. It goes all the way back to like the first experimentals is with Porsche. All it has to do with is the heads, ladies and gentlemen. Like anybody can create a hemispherical head, and then you have a Hemi. That's where we get it from. That's the idea. And in particular, the Chrysler people, they basically took a World War II airplane engine that was a V16, chopped it in half. You had a V8, boom, Hemi. You realize that Ford had a Hemi. And one of the issues that the Pro Stockers had, especially the mountain motor guys and the Chevrolet version, they didn't have Hemis, and they basically had to craft on their own in the modern era of the mountain motor Pro Stock guys a Hemi that would compete with the Fords and the Chryslers. I mean, my goodness, people. What am I getting at? Is it's far more spec of the pro ranks than what it was. Please stop it with the boomerification and living on of, well, that's not a Chrysler. Well, that's not a Ford. Well, look, you got particular people pumping in some money, put their branding on it. It's all done in-house now anyway. Does Toyota actually get some feedback? Well, yes, because they do. In many of the OEMs, they look at these places as like living laboratories. Can these parts with these alloys and these things hold up? And how does that transfer to our actual automotive pieces on the road? That is a part of it. But yes, Toyota does not make the blocks. As of right now, they don't. I mean, they do actually build engines for, well, NASCAR, and they actually have the sprint car program. Heck, you never know. They might start machining the blocks one day based off of a Chrysler Hemi. But then again, it's still not a Chrysler Hemi. It is based upon. It's a John Force block. It's a DSM block. It's a Brad Anderson block. I think Ford's done some machining. My goodness, people, get over it. Ron's a cool dude. And it's not lost on me that Ron Capps, who tried to get a Dodge deal, was denied by Dodge, gets the Toyota deal, kudos to him, and goes and wins the biggest race of the year in a Toyota, and it's sponsored by Dodge. Ha! I think that's funny. And we'll end it there tonight. God bless, and keep the pedal to the metal.
Hero Soap Company is a veteran-owned establishment that produces all-natural, essential oils-infused soap that is sold with a portion of the proceeds supporting other veteran groups. Hero Soap Company. Heroes supporting heroes. Be a hero yourself and buy a bar and let freedom clean.